Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode number 166 of the Debt Free Dad podcast. Today, we are going to be diving into the world of buy now, pay later, which is a payment option that has exploded in popularity over these last several years. And maybe you've been tempted to make a big purchase, but hesitated because you didn't want to pay for all of it up front. Or maybe you've been strapped for cash and wish there was a way to spread out payments, which, by the way, if you're listening to this show, you better not be doing that, right? Well, buy now, pay later is now a payment method that allows you to do just that. And actually, just this past week, Apple is the most recent big name company to offer buy now, pay later options. So in today's episode, we're going to explore how buy now, pay later works, how it's changing the way we shop, and who is actually using this feature the most. But we're also going to discuss how this affects your finances and what you should be considering before this option. Stay tuned.
You're listening to the Debt Free Dad podcast with Brad Nelson. Brad and his co-hosts experience the anxiety of living paycheck to paycheck before learning the fundamentals of financial security. They are now on a mission to empower regular people to pay off their debt for good and enjoy happier, less stressful lives. Keep listening for inspirational interviews, tips, tricks, and practical advice to gain financial freedom.
Hey, how's everyone doing today? You can find me on Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. Just search Brad Nelson, Debt Free Dad. And as always, welcome to today's show. And remember to get all the resources, show notes, and links for today's show. You can head over to balancencents.com/166. That's BALANCEDCENTS.com/166. And I apologize for the ding. That was me. So I know we were just talking about this before we hit record on the show, but so another perfect example of having the proper insurance and having an emergency fund, because with all the craziness I already have going on in my life with my wife passing away and dealing with all of that, last week after we recorded episodes, the next morning I woke up and my basement was flooded because my sump pump had backed up. So this is a reminder. We're not going to get into this topic today on today's show, but man, just a reminder that make sure you got proper homeowners insurance coverage for a lot of that stuff, because that was just the restoration cleanup alone was $4,000 to $7,000. Unbelievable. Just a ton of money. And then obviously, the carpet all needs to be replaced in the finished side of our basement, baseboards, our vanity in our bathroom. Yeah, it was a mess. And as we speak right now, they finally got all their machines out of here yesterday, and I finally was able to clean out the studio so I could record tonight. But I can't believe how damaging. Just a little bit. I mean, though, it was like in some spots, maybe only a quarter of an inch deep, maybe half inch. The deepest place was in the studio, but man, how much damage it causes just with that little bit.
Heck yeah.
So make sure you guys got emergency funds. Make sure you're covered if you have homeowners insurance for sump pump backups. Crazy. Actually, Ryan, you don't even have a basement, do you?
No, we don't. I don't have any sump pumps anymore.
Yeah, so you ain't got to worry about that. So I guess this geographically depends on where you live then.
Yes, it does. Just in tornado season, then we have nowhere to go. So we just pray and hold on to each other and hope it doesn't hit.
Jump in the bathtub.
What did you say, Katie?
Jump in the bathtub.
Yeah,
Yes.
right.
Yes.
Now you guys have up in Canada, Amber. You guys have basements, right?
Oh yeah. I put my mom down there. No, really, she lives in a little granny suite down there.
I always love.
Yeah, we do. I don't have a sump pump though.
Yeah, I always love asking Amber those questions. Hey, up in Canada, do you guys have these?
Do you have this? Do you have that? I know.
You just sent us a video today of do we have this in the States? It was what? You talk about that real quick.
It's maple toffee, where you take the maple syrup and you put it on the snow with a stick and you roll it in the snow and it makes like a maple sucker almost, but it's called maple toffee.
Yeah, the video. I thought the video was pretty funny.
This guy's pretty funny on TikTok. Yeah.
A lot of great profanity. Well used profanity, by the way. Oh, it's funny. But no, I've not tried that, so I'm gonna have to try it. But you're gonna have to. I'm gonna see you actually in a couple weeks. You should bring me some authentic Canadian maple syrup so I can make it next year.
Try.
Yeah, I'll look forward to that.
I have a friend who has like a maple, farm They have maple trees and they do syrup. And she's like, oh yeah, we just made a whole reel about it. She's in Wisconsin. So if you want to go on a field trip.
There you go. Something fun to do.
So it's more of a syrup thing then, not
totally
necessarily.
a syrup thing, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
We
Well,
just got a foot of snow, so they can still do it.
yeah.
There you go.
We'll have
Just
to
make
give
sure
it a
it's
try.
clean. Right, Ryan?
Yeah.
No yellow snow.
Yeah, avoid the yellow snow.
I'm going to say in that video, it looked like that snow was a little dirty in that where he was putting it. It looked a little not white. Just saying. All right. Buy now, pay later is what we're covering today. And this is a big topic. And honestly, this has become more of a concern with obviously our business with financial coaching, seeing more and more people get tied in with some of these payments and these short-term loans with buy now, pay later. And we're going to get into this discussion a little bit about some statistics, a little bit about where they think this industry is going, and hopefully giving you guys a little bit of information about this and whether or not these are, good things to be looking at and using when it comes to managing your money. But buy now, pay later is a payment method that allows consumers to purchase goods and services upfront and defer payment over time. With buy now, pay later, customers can buy items and pay for them later in installments instead of paying for the full price upfront. And if I'm not mistaken, guys, I mean, you can, I think there's a couple of different types of timelines for these. I think you can do like once a week or every bi-weekly. I think you can, are you able to choose? Like, I don't do this. Are you able to choose? Do you guys know?
Yeah, that depends on there's a lot of companies now that are offering this. So it really depends. Like, Apple's the latest one. So I think theirs is like 4 installments over like a period of time, like, might be, 8 weeks or however many weeks. And then just depending on the company you use, it just varies. But I would say most of them are within a couple months is the length of time they give you to pay it off.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it doesn't surprise me why this would be, blowing up in popularity. I think, it basically takes advantage of people's bad behaviors in a lot of cases, especially if you're someone who maybe not be credit worthy or maybe you have maxed out credit cards. In fact, I did a TikTok about this quite a while ago. And I think one of the statistics on there, and don't quote me if this is exactly not right, but somewhere around 30 to 35% of people who use buy now, pay later actually had most of their credit cards maxed out, and that's why they were using that. So it's kind of piggybacking.
Well,
on
we did it.
You guys did buy now, pay later?
Oh yeah, we did it for a mattress. We did it for computers. We did it for all kinds of things, and it was because everything was maxed out.
Yeah,
and it was a little challenging for when we did it. Like, we had to play with some numbers, but they let us do it.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, the statistics.
With
Yeah, like 90 days same as cash and all that. Like the statistics on how many people actually pay it back successfully is alarming. It's crazy.
Well, our
how
whole
many
plan
people
was we're going to pay this back within the 12 months that we had, so we don't pay interest. And you know what happened?
Oh, yeah.
We didn't pay it back, and we had all this interest accrue after that. We're like, oh, fail.
Right.
Well, and I think
did
that's.
it with.
Oh, go ahead, Katie.
Go ahead. Oh, I was just going to say, I did it with tires, all different furniture purchases, things like that. I was like, no, I'll pay it off. But yeah, life happens and no, you don't. So.
Well, buy now, pay later is a little bit different than a lot of those, though. 90 days, same as cash, 6 months free financing. Like, it's a little bit different in the sense that it's for a very much, a much shorter term. I don't even think a lot of them probably go out that far of 90 days. It's very, short term. In fact, I was looking at buying a new pair of jeans, and they like broke it down into like $10 payments over like a 1 month period or something. So obviously, though, I think one of the main reasons why, though, is just, there's so many. It's so easy. I think that's one of the things is that they make it so easy to spend money, and I think this is just another element of that. Especially if it's late at night, you're emotional, or, you've had a bad day, right? And you just see that easy payment. I think it's just, it doesn't surprise me at all. Not even in a little bit. Like, if this would have been me, 15 years ago, I'd probably be doing it too. Because it's so tempting, right? That low payment.
Well, yeah. And you could do it for takeout.
Yeah. like $4 each payment for, the next 4 weeks. There was just the life Without Payments Group, someone posted a meme that's like, yay, I just paid off my latte from November.
Yeah, right.
$6 total, and they were paying $1.50 every month or something.
Now that's astounding to me, is that people will use it to buy food. Oh my gosh.
I mean, I could see groceries right now because of what they cost, but like for takeout?
Yeah, I guess I could see maybe groceries depending on your financial situation, but man, if you're having to depend on that, I mean, hopefully it's a red flag. Like maybe I gotta work on some of this stuff, right? If you're doing it for food and things like that, because it's becoming more and more popular just across every market right now, I think. Now, Ryan, you included an article in here. Do you want to read through that real quick?
Yeah. So this was a CNBC article by Anna Staples, and they basically just kind of walk through kind of the viewpoint of the people who are using buy now, pay later. So this is just some of what they've talked about. So buy now, pay later services have established themselves as a credit tool used by millions of Americans. Between the first quarter of 2021 and the first quarter of 2022, 17% of Americans borrowed using buy now, pay later. The report, however, paints a not so rosy picture of buy now, pay later users' financial and credit health, which is some of what we're alluding to and kind of talking about. While the survey found that many buy now, pay later users had relatively healthy personal finances, it concluded that buy now, pay later borrowers were on average much more likely to be highly indebted, revolve on their credit cards, meaning that you have balances on your credit cards every month, have delinquencies in your traditional credit products, and use high interest financial services. The survey found that buy now, pay later borrowers had an average. Now we're not big on credit scores, but I think just because a lot of people know credit scores, had an average score in the subprime range of 580 to 669. While people who did not use those had an average near the prime range of 670 to 739. And then it also found that 25% of buy now, pay later users didn't have an emergency fund or other savings unrelated to retirement. On top of that, about half of borrowers had less cash in savings than what they paid for the purchases they made using buy now, pay later. It's safe to assume they wouldn't be able to afford those purchases without borrowing.
Yeah. Yeah, that doesn't, the credit score thing doesn't surprise me. I think that's really the appeal, I think, for this, for a lot of people who are in those subprime, that aren't maybe as credit worthy as, say, someone who's, got a 700 plus credit score, is because they're not looking at your credit score to qualify for these. I mean, pretty much anyone can get them. But that's also, I know that I've been reading more and more that the government is going to get in with regulations of this, because it's currently not regulated at all. And one of the things that you got to be aware of, at least right now, and I'm guessing this is going to change as time goes on, is that this does not help your credit score improve at all. It will not have a positive impact on your credit score as we're recording this video, or this podcast here on, what is today, April 4th, 2023. So, I mean, if this is obviously going to change, but here's the thing, as it is right now, it can ruin your credit score, because if you don't pay it, they can report that to the credit bureaus that you're not paying on those things. So if you're someone who's thinking like, this is a smart move because it's going to help me build my credit, or it's not doing anything for you, at least right now. But I know like regulations are going to start being, because this is getting huge, are going to start coming in, and how they're going to start handling these. And man, what a mess, because think about how many companies are now offering this. Yes. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how they even regulate this, and the reporting that's going to get behind it,
And the interesting part, when you look at, some of these statistics where it talks about, they're more likely to have delinquencies on their credit products. They are going to revolve on credit cards. So they're already strapped. And then you look at who's sponsoring the new Apple Pay. It's by MasterCard.
Yeah.
So it's like, this is just another way for them to say, hey, we know that you're really struggling and you're already maxing out your cards. We're going to give you another option that is easier to qualify for, so you can keep spending money, because credit cards don't just make money. Even though you're not going to pay interest to them, they still make money from the merchants who accept this. So they're going to still make money by getting you to spend money. Mm-hmm. So even though you're like, oh, I'm not paying interest, they're still making money off of you using that, because they're charging the merchant that whatever percentages to accept that.
I mean, how many of these do people have at one time? They can just get as many as they want at one time. And now you're talking like death by 1,000 cuts 10 times over, right? Yes. They got all these small little payments happening, and then emergency happens and boom, they have nothing. They can't do anything because they're stuck with all these little payments.
Yeah. And that's the danger.
Just hurting you in the long run.
Right. And that's the danger, is because, you know, if you're not paying attention, which we did a whole episode on that, where we found that statistics showed that more people were wanting to take care of their house plants versus actually taking care of their finances. They're not paying attention to anything that's going on with their money. How many people don't even know, like, subscriptions? How many, you know, when they actually ask people in that podcast episode, you know, do you know how much you have coming out for subscriptions? The majority of people don't. And when you're signing up for all these payments, man, and Katie, you know about this. Maybe you could talk about overdraft fees and all of that stuff now happening because you missed and you were unorganized and you forgot about all the stuff you had coming out.
I should literally have the crown of queen of overdraft fees because, yeah, I was always trying to stay ahead of the game, but it's a game. You're playing a dangerous game, I think, because yeah, you're always floating a payment. You're hoping your deposit gets in the bank before your payment clears for whatever subscription. And the first time I sat down and did an actual, like you always say, make your budget by going through like your bank statements and your credit card statements and see where the money's actually going. And it's like, how am I spending $800 more a month than I'm actually bringing in, like income wise? And it's like, oh yeah, I'm just charging it on credit cards. And I'm like, oh, I'll get it now. And then I'll pay it next and pay it. And then something happens with my car or a medical bill comes in or whatever. And it's like, oh, well, I'll pay it some other time. And then you move it from your credit card to a new balance transfer 0% for 12 months and whatever. And yeah, then it's again, the minimum payments over and over and over again that just strangle you.
Yeah. Man, even just hearing you talk about it just stresses me out. It just does.
I'm so stressed out before Roots.
Man.
I'm getting down there, but I look back at these and go, oh, what was I thinking? Like just the worst habits.
And it's amazing to me because you look at, you go to the checkout line or you go and you look at a store and you're like, I'm not paying $200 for that. But then it's like, but I'll pay $50 4 times for it. And it's just like, it's separating, like, you know what I mean? It's like they dull the pain enough. You're going to buy it and you wouldn't buy it if you had to spend the $200. But you will if you have to spend $50 4 times over the course of time. It's like, it's just separating that. It's like getting in your head that you can afford this item because you say I can afford $50, but at the end of the day, it's still $200.
Yeah.
It's just like, as seen on TV, we'll break it down into 3 low payments.
Right. I think they took this from the Home Shopping Network. Yeah. I'm blaming the Home Shopping Network.
Those late night commercials when you're up just like, ooh, that looks good. I need that pan, or I need those socks.
And don't forget, we're going to throw in the cool little apple slicer, that you got 100 of them because it comes with everything.
But wait, there's more.
A couple of other statistics I just wanted to mention. According to Go Banking Rates, more than half of the surveyed users that use Buy Now, Pay Later have reported falling behind on the payments. More than half. And according to Lending Tree, nearly 70% admit to spending more than they would have if they had to pay for everything up front. So that's interesting, Ryan. You say, like, and I think you got a point. People don't want to pay for it up front, but at the same time, they're willing to spend more if you break it down into payments. And again, this is all a psychological game that these companies are playing just to get you to buy stuff. These are the types of things that you have to be aware of, though, when it comes to behavior, habits, and choices when you're purchasing these things, though, because this is where they get you. That you think like, oh, this is a good deal. This is the way you should do it. And more times than not, you're actually spending more. And 57% of users reported regretting that they made the purchase. Over half of the people. Which is crazy. And then by 2030, the Buy Now, Pay Later market size is expected to reach nearly $3.7 trillion. That is unreal. Yes. That is like explosive type of growth. So I have a feeling, this is probably going to start to be something that competes very well with, credit cards. And looking at this type of growth, there's no question. Credit card debt typically floats around just a little under $1 trillion nationwide. Now, how they actually calculate that out, I don't know exactly, but $3.7 trillion though. That's nearly triple the amount of actual credit card debt people are in. So that's a really interesting statistic to see how this kind of shapes up over here the next 7-8 years.
And just as a comparison, it's 10% of the national debt in the United States.
Yeah. That's crazy.
That's 30 some trillion, 31.5 trillion.
And all for a bunch of stuff. And I just want to throw this in here right now. A lot of, if you've listened to this show the last couple of weeks, many of you know my wife passed away, and obviously I'm having to now go through stuff, right? And man, I need to get rid of my stuff because I don't want anyone else to do it. It's just like you think about it, and you spend your life collecting this stuff just for somebody else just to be like, I don't need this. It's not important to me, and she was my wife, mind you, right? I mean, so obviously I'm not throwing away everything because, we have a daughter and I want her to have some things from mom, but there are just some things like naturally I'm just going to have to get rid of, right? Because it was Sarah's things. It was Sarah's interest. It was, it'd be like me passing away and her still being here, and she there's no way she'd keep my Legos, right? There's no way. I mean, she probably eventually would get rid of that. Oh, maybe not. She might keep the Legos, but
she knows what an investment that was.
Right. But there's things like that. You just think about all you're doing is collecting a bunch of things over your lifetime just for somebody else have to go through and throw it all away. Like, is it really worth all the stress and the worry and all the BS that we got to go through for all this? It's just amazing how much we just love stuff here, and both in Canada and the U.S. It's unbelievable how just materialistic and consumer driven the economy is just on consuming stuff. Again, and to end your life, just man, now it's all just going to go in the garbage, right? It's crazy.
Right. Well, I think that's a good segue too of, you kind of talk about stuff. And I think in this climate of inflation and everything, I think a lot of the pushback that I'm seeing from people is, well, inflation's so high. I mean, I needed to buy food and I needed to buy like the necessities. And there was another survey done. This was from the Business of Retail, and it's Dan Barathama. I don't probably butchering his last name, but they kind of surveyed and they said, what are the most popular purchase categories? And it's like, I'm not going to read all the percentages, but I'm going to tell you this right now. Food is not in the top category. It's clothing, electronics, shoes, home goods, furniture, jewelry, food. Oh, I guess food and drinks is 25%. Toys and games, exercise and sporting equipment.
Yeah.
But then you look at that and you're just like, 9 out of those 10 categories are not necessities. It's just stuff. Like you just said, it's just stuff I want. And like, the inflation is kind of, we're using that as the excuse to overspend again. Like it's, inflation is high. So that now comes along this huge thing where I can make these small payments to acquire more stuff in an easier way.
And wait, 64% of respondents said they'd use buy now, pay later for buying holiday gifts.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Start now. Start saving now.
Yeah. Right.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
And when it comes to stuff, I've made 2 cross-country moves in the last 8 years, and I get to move to a new apartment only 20 minutes away next month, but
oh my gosh, you're moving again? Oh, no.
Yeah. Well, they wanted to raise my rent like $200 a month, so I'm like, no, sorry.
Right,
I'm actually going to be paying less rent at my new place. I'm very excited.
Well, that's
Way
good.
to go me for saving money. But yeah, when I moved from Wisconsin to Florida, I had a major garage sale, got rid of a bunch of stuff, moved down with whatever fit in the back of my Toyota Highlander, no U-Haul, no trailer, nothing. When I moved back 5.5 years later, I had a U-Haul, I had a car full. Like, where did all of this stuff come from? And now I'm like, oh, now I have to do it all again. And no, just throw it all away. I just need to be done with stuff.
Yeah, it's amazing how much you collect, and it's even with a lot of people have been coming over and dropping food off, but they're my kids, like there'll be like little things here and there for the kids, and there's just so much of that now that's just here over these last month, 5 weeks or so, of just things that people have dropped off, but it's just little things like that. Even you do that in your own life. It's like, oh, you pick up a few things here, you pick up a few things there. Before you know it, it's like, the hell did all of this come from? Right? It's just that.
I added to that.
Yeah. Hey, those cards actually, those are in her church bag. We actually use those cards and some of that stuff. Yeah. And all of it's not junk. It's just like, but that's how it happens, right? It's birthdays and, gifts here and there, or just little random purchases. And before you know it, there's that statistic that was out there in that minimalist documentary on Netflix I watched several years ago. The average house has over 300,000 items in it. That's 300,000. That's average. So, man, people have got a lot more than that in a lot of cases. I would easily probably still pass that. If you count all of the individual things,
Yep.
And here I am thinking I'm somewhat of a minimalist. Yeah, right. I like to, it's in theory, it sounds really good, but I need to get rid of some more stuff to really get to that level, I think.
Yeah. The other mind-blowing stat I just want to read, and I do think this is somewhat intentional. I do think that this plays into like why it's becoming popular, and I do think that might feel as the credit industry is painting this picture, and that's 43% of respondents don't consider themselves in debt when they owe money on a purchase, even though buy now, pay later is a form of debt, and this jumps to 51% among Gen Z respondents, and so. If you just look at, that is scary. Because like we said earlier, like you could have a bunch of these. You could owe right now, there's probably someone right now that owes probably thousands of dollars in buy now, pay later payments. And that same person is like, yeah, I don't have any debt.
Yeah.
Because it's not credit card, even though MasterCard is the same company that you had to have a credit card from is going to now support other avenues like Apple Pay. It's like, but you say you don't have any debt. You owe the money to the same people.
Yep.
Does that mean if I borrow money from my grandma, I don't have debt?
Yeah. I guess according to these guys.
It's the same thing. You owe somebody money, you have debt.
Well, I think it goes just to the misinformation and miseducation out there, just in general about money and personal finance, and just that we are such a payment society. Like, to think in terms of paying for things in full price and saving up and paying cash is like, that's weird. Why would you do it that way? In fact, there are some places that will say like, oh, if you do that, you actually don't get as good of a deal, which there probably is some that are like that now because it has become driven so much by finance. You look at cars, obviously on a new car lot, you may not get as good a deal paying cash because they make money on the financing. So they might be more willing to work with you on the value of the vehicle because, if you're going to finance it, they're going to make money on the back end of that loan, right? Whereas opposed to if you pay cash, well, they lose out on some of that revenue then. So in some cases that is the truth, but man, I think, that statistic just speaks very, very well to just how misinformed and uneducated most of us are when it comes to money and personal finance, especially the younger generation.
Because you always say it's just debt is a product, and they have really great marketing to make it sound so fancy and everybody does it. And yeah.
Yep. Oh, it's so good. Man, they are good. It's fascinating how good they are with it.
They must have rooms of psychologists.
Makes you feel, right. Makes you feel good. Makes you feel like you're doing the right thing. Man. Yeah. So anyways, I think by listening to this episode, you've come to the conclusion that you should try to stay away from buy now, pay later as much as you possibly can. And, just use your budget and save up. Use sinking funds. We have a whole episode on sinking funds, probably one of our more popular episodes here on how to do this just on your own. It just takes planning, and you can get yourself out of these rat races of stressing yourself out, worrying about these payments nonstop. Stay far away from buy now, pay later if you can.
Brad's rule of waiting 24 hours, like, do you really need this? Do you just want it, or is it an actual need? Like, that has saved me thousands of dollars. I can guarantee that over the last 5 years.
So the Totally Awesome Debt Freedom Planner is helping so many people make consistent progress with their finances. Whether that be building emergency funds, paying down bills, budgeting, tracking paydays, saving up for larger purchases, goal planning, and planning for those irregular yearly expenses that always seem to catch you by surprise. Now, the Debt Freedom Planner will help you take the stress out of managing your money. And if the thought is running through your mind, hey, I just need to have a simple tool to get my finances together, this planner is perfect for you. Head over to therealdebtfreedad.com, click on the Debt Freedom Planner in the menu at the top of the page, and order your Debt Freedom Planner today.
another day. Let's talk about all the good things, all the bad things that make me. Let's talk about debt. Let's talk about debt.
And that sound means it's time for the celebrations of the show. First, we have Ashley Bertucci. We were craving cheeseburgers last night, so instead of spending $20 on Carl's Jr., I went to the grocery store and got way more for $31.
Awesome. Cheeseburgers. Sounds great right now. I told everyone I've been doing these workouts to try to work out like stress and emotion. And man, I'm so beat and tired right now. It's unbelievable. But cheeseburgers sound really good right now. Samantha Hubbs put aside $200 extra into my emergency fund and paid off 2 small debts I had let linger for several months. Samantha, great job.
Sandy Kurtz Jarrett is taking her daughter to Disney World at the end of April. Everything has been paid for. She just needs to budget for gas because it's a 3-hour drive from her house and the food. And P.S., you can take snacks into Disney World. It's not like DSA, but nothing has to be like bottled water that's sealed or anything like that. You can take food and beverages. Just as a hint, I did used to work there, so I know the rules.
That's awesome. But by the way, you can do that though. You can pay cash and actually go to Disney. Unheard of, right? So great job, Sandy. Great win.
Tammy Yankee. My youngest son needed a new bed, so we purchased the mattress and box spring, and my husband built the framework and put lights under it, all with cash.
That's awesome. Way to go, Tammy. Congratulations to all of you guys who are working so hard at getting yourselves out of debt. And if you're just getting started with our podcast, or maybe you've been listening for some time and you're interested in how you can get started on the road to financial freedom, you can head over to our website at balancesense.com, sign up for our free Life Without Payments workshop, where I'm actually going to show you the first steps that have helped tens of thousands of people just like you and I kick financial stress and worry for good.
Thanks for listening to the Debt Free Dad podcast. Connect with us on Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram at Brad Nelson Debt Free Dad. If you found value in today's episode, please leave a rating and review. We so appreciate it. For resources, show notes, and links mentioned in today's show, visit balancedsense.com. That's balancedsense, CENTS.com. Catch you next week.